Isn't life beautiful? Right now, we are involved in a process of self-recovery. I hear people talk about self-discovery and that self stuff. Come on, man. I ain't into all that. I'm into self-recovery. Why do I say it like this? And I'll tell you why. Because I like to answer questions, so sometimes I ask myself a question so I can answer the question. Because I like to answer questions. So anyway, here we go. Self-recovery, meaning that when you were born, you were all into yourself. When you were born, you knew yourself. You were so deep in the self, none of this other stuff mattered. All that stuff about, oh, I feel depressed. Oh, I got oppressors. Oh, I can't make the rent. None of that stuff matters. You were deep into self. Yourself, that's all you knew. Your mind hadn't started picking up all these things that it carries now and thinking it's in control. When your mind is in control, that's called mental slavery. That's artificial intelligence. The mind is full of artificial intelligence. Your mind is the matrix. You want to get out of the matrix? Get out of your mind. Go into yourself. Hence, self-recovery. How do you know yourself? I'll tell you real quickly. I got little exercises. One is count to 100 silently. All the way to 100 now. Don't stop. Because your mind will start trying to get you to stop. Your mind has been in control all this time. It's a habit. The mind picks up habits. The self rarely does that. The mind and the body, they are habitual creatures. They pick up habits. The mind has a habit of thinking one way. The body has a habit of doing things one way. So you're always doing it with your right foot or your left foot or that, because your body picks up all these habits. Or you do this or you do that, or your mind got the same thing. It runs this way and it runs that way, but it ain't gonna run no way it ain't ran before unless it's under the auspices of self. The mind will only run through them little tracks it's used to running through. You got to push it. And the reason I say count to 100 is because this is where yourself directly instruct your mind to do its bidding. So you say to your mind, count to 100. See, the mind is logical like that. It will count to 100. Yourself don't care about no 100, but your mind does. Your mind got to go through all the numbers. It's funny. So it's like a little trick. These are tricks you got to use on your own mind. They call it, it's not bad to trick your own mind so you can take over your mind, so yourself can take over. So sometimes this little trick about counting to 100 and do it silently, because your mind will want to do it loud so it don't have to do it. Your mind don't want to take the order. It's a given. I ain't going to even ask nothing about it. Some people can do it right away. First time out, boom, count to 100. Most people can't make it the first time. That's just how it is. Your mind will stop you at 15, 25. Most people don't get to 50, actually. But you got to start again. But always go back to the beginning, because you are training your mind to take orders from yourself. So every time your mind stops or you get lost and thought takes over and all that, just go right back to 0 and start back to 100. But always do it silently so your mind don't talk over itself with the voice thing, and you lose control of the mind. So this is one, and as you're counting and you're watching your mind, to keep your mind on the object that it's supposed to stay on, like a dog or whatever you're training. The one that's watching the mind, that's the self. The one that is the mind, that's the one that's supposed to be counting. And the self will try to confuse you between the two. The mind. The mind will try to confuse you between the two as often as it can, because it doesn't want to lose its control. It's like a virus now. It's sick, it's disease, and it has a virus. It want to go back in and recontrol. So the self has to take over from the mind by doing little tricks. It's a good way to do it. Some people meditate, fine. Counting from 1 to 100, that's how long that takes. You can meditate for 2-3 hours and not get as far as you can with counting silently from zero, from 0 to 100, to separate the mind from the self. And that's how we get into self recovery, because we want to recover. We want the self to recover this life. Once the self recovers the life, the self is happy. The mind is the one that's diseased with hate, envy, desire. All that stuff is in the mind. Anything that makes you miserable is in the mind. Most of that stuff that you think will make you happy, it's in the mind. Like you want this, so you think you're gonna be happy when you get it, but you're not. The mind is just messing with you, and it's controlling you. And you know what? It'll have you live out hundreds of years if you can go that far and don't get nothing done. The mind will do that. It'll live out hundreds of years and don't get nothing done. Nothing gets done. That's why you have to deal with the self. The self came here with something to do. And the mind will be like, well, you can't, the self be like, okay, I'm thinking about this is what I want to do. And the mind said, well, you can't do that because, that ain't no real job and you got to make money and see, I'm going to go get the newspaper or whatever and look up some jobs and put in some applications and stuff. Your self be like, what? But your mind is telling you what it has been trained to think. And that's all it can do, is tell you what you train. You tell it what you want. You'd be like, I want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And the mind go, well, ain't no peanut butter here right now, but I can go to the store and get some peanut butter. Whatever. It's going to figure it out because the mind is logical. It figures out this stuff on the physical level. But the self now, that's the raison d'etre. That's why we're here. Not the mind. The mind is just a useful tool, like you call a carpenter, and he brings a saw and a hammer. Those are tools. That's not the carpenter. You don't want to mistake the hammer and the saw as being the carpenter. And that's what we do all the time. We say, well, ask the hammer what to do. The hammer don't know. It's a tool. The mind don't know. It's a tool. You have to ask the carpenter, the actual thing that's here, the self. And the self knows everything. I don't know nothing the self don't know. I haven't come across anything the self does not know. Simply ask the self. When the self asks itself for an answer, it gets it. It might take, I don't know how long. You just have to recognize it when the answer comes. Sometimes the answer comes in a physical form. We've all experienced it. Anybody over 30 has experienced everything I'm talking about. I'm just saying put it in this order. Take it out of the order that you've been done in with the mental thing, with the matrix, and put it in the order that I'm talking about, which is the natural thing, which is the natural law, natural lower law. And then we can move forward. In growth, we're not at the bottom, we're at the top. We just don't recognize which way is up.